Sonic Unleashed's history is pretty bizarre. It was built with so much effort, so much in-depth, and so much substance, and when it was released, it was written off pretty much instantly. I guess complaining about Sonic was the trend after 06, with every review being really negative for no apparent reason other than not liking the werehog.
Thing you should know about Sonic Unleashed before spending your hard-earned money on it. It's a big piece of garbage.
Just observing this level might make you want to buy Sonic Unleashed, although you're probably better off playing Rooftop Run on the more polished Sonic generation.
Oh god, what now?
Oh, your Wereplumber form. Very edgy.
And about 10 years later, suddenly people were trying out the game again, some for the first time, only to realize, wait, this was one of the best Sonic games ever made the whole time? What? And even though it's been so heavily requested, it somehow remained one of the very few Sonic games to never be re-released or ever get a PC port. The game remains trapped in 2008, only on the Xbox 360, the PlayStation 3, and the... yeah, no, we don't count that. The game on a technical level was just ahead of its time and held back by the limitations of the consoles it was on. Both the PS3 and 360 versions have pros and cons in terms of bugs and performance. I noted a lot of differences between the two in my video dedicated to playing the game. The 360 version is locked to 30 FPS, but is playable by backwards compatibility on Xbox Series X, where it's been patched to unlock the FPS due to the stronger hardware. In fact, you can still buy the game digitally from both the Xbox Store and PS3 stores, which, for some reason, has two listings. One is for the physical version and the other digital. Why is this all caps? And the PS3 version of Unleashed, well, okay, it's weird. By default, its performance is much worse, but is also conditional. The game only runs 720p internally and is upscaled to 1080p, but changing your console settings to 720p bypasses that, and the improvement in performance is through the roof, even reaching 60 frames per second in most areas, though when you play the werehog, the frame drop is still pretty bad. And yet, there was a PC port, but it was never released. Sonic Unleashed was showcased in a presentation discussing the Hedgehog engine and how the game's graphics were developed, a link to which will be in the description below if you want to watch. A development build of Unleashed was used to demonstrate the lighting system and was running off a Windows 7 laptop. Ugh, look at that bad FPS. And again, this is 2009, where computers still kinda sucked. Also, we see levels from Sonic and the Black Knight ported to Unleashed for testing. That's cool. So we do know PC builds of the game exist. Sonic Generations was released on PC in 2011, and that game was built on top of Unleashed to the point where over the years, modders have been able to transplant so much from one game to the other, and for years one of its most popular mods was the Unleashed project, allowing you to play Unleashed daytime stages within Sonic Generations, and being on PC allows for high resolutions and 60 FPS, leading some to feel, well, we don't need a PC port of Unleashed anymore, we have all we need here. Which I've always disagreed with, because that's Unleashed levels in Sonic Generations. It's still not Sonic Unleashed, because Sonic Unleashed is so much more than just its daytime levels. The game as a whole is the full package, a big, satisfying experience and adventure. We can transplant stuff to Generations all we want, from levels to cutscenes to chip and more, but it will never change the fact that they are still two different games. And even though a remaster or re-release or just a PC port of the 2008 game unmodified is all people have asked for years, we still haven't gotten that. And in the time since, we've had remasters of both Sonic Colors and Sonic Generations. With no guarantee Sega and Sonic Team have any plans for Sonic Unleashed in the foreseeable future, with fans mostly resorting to enhanced backwards compatibility or emulation. Until now. So a couple days ago now, the collective Sonic fanbase's jaws dropped, myself included, to find that we just have a PC port of Sonic Unleashed now. How? And with no involvement from Sega? Well, this is another fan project, but it's not a remake made from the ground up like Sonic P06. No, this is just straight up the original Sonic Unleashed game running native on PC through a process called recompilation. A rather recent development in the gaming community, unlike a decomp which can take years to reverse engineer a game made for consoles to its source code to be ported to other platforms, including PC, the process of making a recomp is taking that existing game code and translating it to a code language the PC can understand. I know I'm abbreviating, but there's probably a lot more to it than that. This project is made by the usual suspects responsible for a lot of the more advanced Sonic mods, and it's just here for anyone to use. It's not a full-on free version of the game. As for the installer to work, you need to provide the files from the 360 game yourself, which turns out to be a lot easier than you'd think. I thought I'd need to mod the Xbox like a Nintendo Wii or 3DS, but turns out even though the game comes on a disc, you can install it digitally to your console storage. It also allows you to install it to either the Xbox's hard drive or an external storage device, like a USB stick. There we go. And yeah, it really is that simple. And if you don't have a physical copy, you can still purchase it digitally from the Microsoft Store for about $15 USD or $20 AUD. And once it's done installing, the game is just on your flash drive now. Yeah, I was surprised it was that easy too. You just plug it into your PC and you just have the game files ready to be used. I have no idea why it dates the files to 2005. Hey, while editing this, found out that this is actually the release date of the Xbox 360, so yeah, that's kinda weird. You can also do the same for DLC and save files, and turns out you can do the exact same for PS3 save files, although they are not compatible at the moment. The 360 game files are only 5.7 gigabytes, significantly smaller than I was expecting. For comparison, the PS3 version is 7.6 gigabytes. Makes sense, Blu-ray format disc with the less compressed video files and everything. You can open the Recomp installer and it looks really nice, almost as if it were an official product. And I got stuck figuring out how to install the game files. Eventually I found the file I was supposed to select, but there was another I couldn't find. Turns out I'm just dumb because the Recomp requires a file from an update, and my 360 doesn't have built-in Wi-Fi, so I never actually updated the game in my entire time of owning it, so that was on me. Once I did figure out what I was missing, it prompts you to install the DLC files, which is optional. I did not have the DLC files, but apparently the DLC for each continent contains higher quality GI maps for more realistic lighting, which I didn't know about, and apparently the ones in the final game are much more compressed, and the game was originally planned to release on 2 Xbox discs. All this time later, still learning things about this game. Anyway, after you're all set up, the game starts installing, and when it's done, the game just starts. I can't believe it. Right in front of me is just Sonic Unleashed. Except on a computer. There's a lot more customization options as the original game practically didn't have any. It can adapt its button icons depending on if you're using an Xbox or PlayStation controller. The latter supports touchpads now. You can choose the day and night transition because for some reason it's different between the 360 and PS3. You can disable the Werehog's battle theme if you get sick of it easily, or you can set it so that the in-game music fades out if you play any other media on your computer in the background. And don't get me started on the custom aspect ratios for super wide monitors and even portrait mode. What? I've played Sonic Unleashed on the 360 and PS3 more times than I can count, and I know it back to front. I always expect how long a loading or transition screen is, or when the game will lag or frame stutter, so playing it on a machine with the top-of-the-line components from 2017 really transforms the experience. Actually, I don't think I've ever had this much fun fighting as the Werehog before. I feel like there's less input delay and I can defend myself easier. I'm not sure yet. Everything just looks so beautiful, all the textures aren't compressed and downscaled anymore, and even outside the game, Hedge Mod Manager already recognizes it, and mods have been rolling out for this thing almost instantaneously, and it's just gonna get crazier from here. But I do have something else I want to discuss. How does this impact Sega? I've had numerous people respond on Twitter claiming it won't at all, they aren't losing any money, it won't impact them at all, and they legally can't shut it down. Yes, Sega have set themselves apart from the likes of Nintendo by not shutting down fan projects, and for several years now have had a good standing relationship with the Sonic fanbase, but it's very ignorant to say this will have no impact on Sega at all, and technically they are losing money on this because they still sell the game, and come on, I already know I'm gonna get dozens of comments from people who are gonna say they'd rather use uploads of the game online if they haven't already bought it.
Oh, look at Mr. Fancy Pants, who's too good to sail the 7 seas with his legitimately acquired game files, telling everyone else to spend actual money. What, does he think it grows on trees?
Well, there's a good reason for this, because if you know anything about the game industry, the truth is, money makes all their decisions for them. But in regards to Sonic Unleashed, I'm not referring to Sega losing money. If anything, the Recomp has given Sonic Unleashed so much publicity it's been trending on Twitter, YouTube, and news sites, leading to many people playing it for the first time. I guess I never considered how many people out there don't have access to a system that can play the game since there's been no official re-release. But in terms of impacting Sonic Team, they most likely already know by now. And we don't know if they already had plans in the works for Unleashed or not. Either way, now they will have to take action, and more importantly, if they do make their remaster now, they would have to actively compete with the Recomp, seeing that it would have been out for a long time by the time they actually release an Unleashed remaster. And not just that, they would have to ensure people actually buy it instead of choosing the Recomp over it. We already know they delisted the classic Sonic games when promoting Sonic Origins, and Sonic Generations when promoting Sonic X Shadow Generations, as to not get in the way of their sales. But unlike their old releases, they don't have any control over the Recomp. So what would they do? I have no idea at this point. But I know one thing. They would have to put a lot of effort into making sure their own remaster of Sonic Unleashed would be worth buying over using the recomp. Sonic Colors Ultimate and Sonic X Shadow Generations both added new content to the base game that set them apart from their originals, not to mention the inclusion of Shadow Generations, an entirely new game taking place at the same time as Generations with their stories connected. So could you imagine a version of Unleashed that maybe has new collectibles, or perhaps new animated shorts from Marziplanet Animation, maybe a new exclusive location to visit, or dare I say, maybe a side story? I wouldn't expect something full-on like Shadow Generations, but what could be an equivalent? Maybe an Amy Rose campaign? Or even one for Tails? Maybe both of them? Both characters get up to their own stuff during the game's story before they encounter Sonic. What was Tails doing in Apotos? What was Amy doing in Spagonia? Who knows? But the only ones who can answer that is Sega and Sonic Team. By the way, did I mention numerous Sonic fans admitted to only buying an Xbox Series S or X just to play Sonic Unleashed? Thanks so much for watching, please check out some of my other Sonic videos, and stick around for my next videos when they drop. But until then, stay tuned, and stay awesome.